In the heart of a distant galaxy, where stars shimmered like scattered diamonds against an endless velvet sky, lay the resplendent planet of Valerian. It was home to the Velari, a race known for their otherworldly beauty and advanced technology that bordered on magic. Their society thrived within opulent cities crafted from luminous crystal towers that reflected every hue of light imaginable. At the pinnacle of this civilization stood Queen Seraphina, a figure as regal as she was breathtaking. Her skin gleamed with an iridescent glow, her hair cascaded in waves of liquid silver, and her eyes held galaxies within them. Seraphina ruled with wisdom and power unmatched by any before her. The royal palace stretched across vast expanses, its architecture blending seamlessly with nature's wonders, waterfalls cascading through translucent walls, gardens suspended midair, and halls adorned with intricate carvings that told tales of ancient glory. Yet beneath the splendor lay whispers of unrest. For centuries, the Velari had faced threats from neighboring systems, forcing them into isolation. Recently, however, rumors of humans infiltrating their borders reached Seraphina's ears. Humans were a curious species, resilient yet fragile, driven by emotions rather than logic. They possessed neither the elegance nor the technological prowess of the Velari but compensated with relentless determination. One such human found himself at the mercy of Queen Seraphina after his ship crash-landed on Valerian during a reconnaissance mission. His name was Selim Drake, a soldier whose life revolved around duty and discipline. Tall and broad-shouldered, he carried scars both visible and hidden, each telling a story of battles fought and survived. When Selim first entered the grand hall of the palace, flanked by guards who regarded him with disdain, he couldn't help but marvel at the sheer magnificence surrounding him. But awe quickly gave way to defiance when he locked eyes with Seraphina. She sat upon her throne, draped in robes woven from threads that sparkled like stardust, exuding an aura of authority so potent it felt almost tangible. "You dare trespass on sacred ground," she declared, her voice melodic yet commanding. "For your insolence, you shall serve me until judgment deems otherwise." Selim clenched his fists, refusing to bow despite the weight of her gaze. "I didn't come here seeking servitude," he retorted, his tone laced with both frustration and resolve. "But if slavery is what awaits me, then so be it. I'll endure." Little did either of them know how profoundly those words would shape their fates, or how love could bloom even amidst chains. Life as Seraphina's slave proved more challenging than Selim anticipated. Each day began under the watchful eyes of the palace overseers, who assigned him menial tasks meant to break his spirit. He scrubbed floors made of polished gemstone, tended to sprawling gardens filled with flora unlike anything Earth had seen, and hauled supplies across the labyrinthine corridors of the palace. Despite the monotony, Selim refused to let bitterness consume him. Instead, he observed everything. The subtle dynamics between courtiers, the quiet murmurs of dissent among servants, and most importantly, the queen herself. Seraphina often wandered the palace grounds alone, her expression unreadable yet tinged with melancholy. Selim noticed how she lingered near the edge of the floating gardens, staring out at the horizon as though searching for something beyond reach. Once, while delivering freshly cut blooms to her chambers, he caught her humming a haunting melody. It wasn't just music. It was longing, raw and unfiltered. In that moment, his resentment softened slightly, replaced by a flicker of curiosity. Their interactions remained sparse but charged with tension. Seraphina occasionally summoned him to attend her directly, assigning tasks no one else dared undertake. Whether it was retrieving artifacts from treacherous vaults or navigating unstable energy fields to fetch rare materials, Selim handled each challenge with stoic determination. Over time, his resourcefulness earned begrudging respect from some members of the royal staff, though others viewed him as little more than a nuisance. Humor became Selim's unexpected weapon against the oppressive atmosphere. When a clumsy servant spilled nectar meant for the queen's morning tea, he quipped, "Guess we're switching to water today. Healthier anyway." The room erupted in stifled laughter, easing the tension momentarily. Even Seraphina raised an eyebrow, her lips twitching ever so slightly. These small victories kept Selim grounded, reminding him of his humanity even in alien surroundings. Yet beneath the surface, drama simmered. Court intrigues swirled around him, with factions vying for influence over the queen. Some whispered of rebellion, others plotted assassination attempts disguised as accidents. Selim found himself unwittingly entangled in these machinations when he overheard plans to sabotage Seraphina's upcoming diplomatic summit. Acting on instinct, He thwarted the scheme by alerting trusted guards, earning not only gratitude but also suspicion. Who was this human who risked his neck for a queen who treated him as property? As weeks turned into months, the line between captor and captive blurred. Selim began noticing how Serafina studied him during council meetings, her gaze lingering longer than necessary. Was it curiosity, pity, or something deeper? Meanwhile, action unfolded outside the palace walls. Reports of skirmishes along Valerian's borders reached the court, prompting Serafina to prepare for potential war. To everyone's astonishment, including his own, she appointed Selim to lead reconnaissance missions, citing his tactical expertise. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. A mere slave now commanded soldiers far superior in strength and skill. Yet Selim proved adept at rallying allies, using humor and humility to bridge cultural gaps. During one particularly tense standoff with rogue factions, he diffused hostility by sharing stories of Earth's history, drawing parallels between their struggles and humanity's resilience. By the end of the encounter, even hardened warriors chuckled at his anecdotes about pizza delivery gone wrong. Through it all, Serafina watched silently, her emotions guarded yet undeniable. Something about Selim unsettled her, not because he posed a threat, but because he challenged the very foundation of her rule. Love, she realized, was a dangerous thing, especially when it crept up on you unbidden, turning slaves into equals and rulers into followers. And so, their dance continued, each step bringing them closer to a truth neither could ignore. Amidst the swirling chaos of palace intrigue, Selim's presence began to weave itself into the fabric of Valerian's daily life in ways no one could have predicted. His knack for storytelling, honed from years spent swapping tales with fellow soldiers, became a source of entertainment during otherwise stiff royal gatherings. One evening, as the court dined under a canopy of glowing bioluminescent vines, Selim recounted a humorous tale about a mischievous raccoon back on Earth that had once stolen sandwiches from an entire platoon. Laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the usual icy formality. Even Serafina chuckled softly, her fingers tracing the rim of her goblet as she leaned forward ever so slightly. This newfound levity wasn't confined to social events. It seeped into the workings of governance too. When debates grew heated over trade agreements with neighboring planets, Selim interjected with a disarmingly simple analogy involving bartering fruit at a farmer's market. While some nobles bristled at his audacity, others found clarity in his earthy perspective. Over time, Serafina started consulting him informally on matters ranging from diplomatic strategies to cultural exchanges. Though officially still her slave, Selim's opinions carried weight, subtly reshaping decisions without overt acknowledgement. Behind closed doors, their relationship evolved further. Late nights spent poring over star charts and battle plans brought them closer together. Serafina revealed fragments of her past, how she ascended the throne after her parents' untimely deaths, leaving her isolated despite her power. Selim listened intently, offering not pity but understanding. "Sounds like you've been carrying the weight of the world since you were young," he remarked one night, leaning back in his chair. "Must get exhausting being perfect all the time." Her response surprised him. "Perfection is overrated," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes, I envy your imperfections." The admission hung heavy between them, charged with unspoken meaning. Meanwhile, external threats loomed larger. News arrived of a massive fleet amassing near Valerian's borders, led by an ambitious warlord named Kryn. Known for his ruthlessness, Kryn sought to conquer Valerian and claim its resources. Panic spread through the palace, but Serafina remained resolute. She ordered increased patrols and fortified defenses, yet anxiety gnawed at her privately. Sensing her unease, Selim proposed an unconventional strategy, leveraging alliances with neutral factions who might sway the balance of power. With Serafina's reluctant approval, he embarked on a perilous journey to negotiate terms with these groups. Alongside a small team of trusted Valari warriors, Selim ventured deep into uncharted territories, facing dangers that tested his courage and wit. From negotiating treaties with reclusive tribes to surviving ambushes in toxic jungles, each trial forged stronger bonds between him and his companions. Word of his exploits reached the palace, bolstering morale among the citizens. Upon his return, triumph etched onto his weary face, Selim presented Serafina with signed agreements guaranteeing military support from key allies. For the first time, genuine admiration flickered openly in her eyes. "You've done what many thought impossible," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "Perhaps I underestimated you." Perhaps, he replied with a wry grin. But don't make a habit of it. As preparations for battle intensified, so did the undercurrents of affection between them. Moments stolen in quiet corners of the palace grew frequent, filled with shared glances and lingering touches. Servants whispered behind closed doors, speculating whether the queen harbored feelings for her former slave. Drama unfolded when jealous courtiers attempted to discredit Selim, spreading rumors of betrayal. But Serafina silenced dissent swiftly, declaring her unwavering trust in him before the entire assembly. Yet amidst the mounting tension, humor persisted. During a ceremonial feast celebrating their newfound alliances, Selim accidentally knocked over a towering centerpiece of crystalline flowers. As shards clattered to the floor, gasps echoed through the hall. Before anyone could react, he bowed dramatically and quipped, "Well, that's one way to clear space for dessert." Roars of laughter followed, easing nerves and reaffirming unity. Love, however, remained the elephant in the room, or rather, the palace. Neither Selim nor Serafina dared voice what simmered beneath their forced smiles and stolen moments. Action dictated their days, but emotion ruled their nights. And as the impending conflict drew nearer, the stakes rose higher. Would their bond withstand the trials ahead? Or would duty tear them apart just as fate seemed poised to bring them together? As the date of the decisive battle approached, the air within the royal palace grew electric with anticipation and dread. Soldiers moved with purpose, their armor gleaming under the artificial suns that illuminated the grand halls. Supplies were stockpiled, weapons sharpened, and strategies rehearsed until they became second nature. Selim found himself at the center of it all, balancing his roles as both advisor and warrior. Each day brought new challenges, but also opportunities to prove his worth, not just to Serafina, but to himself. One evening, as twilight bathed the palace in hues of lavender and gold, Selim stood atop one of the observation decks overlooking the capital city. Below, lights twinkled like constellations, casting long shadows across the crystalline spires. Behind him, soft footsteps announced Serafina's arrival. Without turning, he spoke. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" "It is," she replied, joining him at the railing. For a moment, they simply gazed outward, letting the silence stretch between them. Then, hesitantly, she added, "Do you ever miss Earth?" Selim sighed, leaning forward slightly. "Sometimes. Not the war zones or the politics, but the little things, like watching rain fall on a tin roof or hearing kids laugh in a park. Simple stuff." He glanced sideways at her. "Why do you ask?" She shrugged, her expression thoughtful. "Because sometimes I wonder if ruling has made me forget what simplicity feels like. You remind me of it." Her words struck a chord deep within him. Turning fully toward her, he met her gaze. "Serafina, you don't have to carry everything alone. Let me help you. Not because I'm obligated, but because I want to." For the first time, vulnerability flickered across her features. "And what if helping means risking everything? What if loving you costs me my crown?" His heart clenched at her admission, raw and honest. "Then maybe it's time to redefine what being a queen really means," he said softly. "Power doesn't have to come from fear or control. Sometimes, it comes from trust and love." Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the palace, shattering the moment. Kryn's fleet had breached the outer defenses, launching a surprise attack far earlier than anticipated. Chaos erupted as soldiers scrambled to their posts, civilians fled to underground bunkers, and commanders barked orders. Amidst the pandemonium, Selim and Serafina exchanged a look fraught with unspoken promises before sprinting toward the command center. Inside, holographic displays projected real-time updates of the invasion. Enemy ships descended like locusts, unleashing devastating barrages that shattered protective shields and reduced sections of the city to rubble. Casualties mounted rapidly, and panic threatened to overwhelm even the most seasoned warriors. But Selim's calm demeanor steadied those around him. With quick thinking, he coordinated counterattacks, directing squadrons to exploit weaknesses in Kryn's formation while rallying reinforcements from allied factions. Serafina took charge alongside him, her regal presence bolstering morale. Together, they devised a daring plan. Infiltrate Kryn's flagship and disable its core reactor, crippling his forces from within. Assembling a strike team composed of elite Velari warriors and trusted human allies, they prepared for the perilous mission. Before departing, Serafina pulled Selim aside, her hands gripping his shoulders tightly. "If we survive this," she whispered, her voice trembling, "promise me we'll talk about us afterward." He nodded, cupping her face gently. We will. No matter what happens, we'll face it together. The infiltration proved harrowing. Dodging enemy fire and navigating labyrinthine corridors, the team pressed onward, guided by Selim's strategic instincts and Serafina's intimate knowledge of advanced technology. Humor surfaced even in the direst moments. When a malfunctioning door nearly trapped them, Selim joked, "Guess they haven't mastered customer service yet." Laughter eased tensions, keeping spirits high despite the looming danger. Finally reaching the reactor chamber, they encountered Kryn himself, a towering figure clad in obsidian armor, radiating menace. A fierce battle ensued, testing every ounce of skill and determination. Blades clashed, energy blasts lit up the dim space, and shouts echoed off metallic walls. Just when victory seemed uncertain, Selim executed a risky maneuver, distracting Kryn long enough for Serafina to plant explosive charges on the reactor. As they retreated, explosions rocked the flagship, sending shockwaves through the fleet. Cheers erupted back at the palace as Kryn's remaining forces scattered, defeated. Exhausted but victorious, Selim and Serafina returned to find their people jubilant, hailing them as heroes. Yet amidst the celebration, unresolved emotions lingered. Later that night, standing once again on the observation deck, they finally confronted the truth neither could deny any longer. "Selim," Serafina began, her voice steady yet tender. "I can't keep pretending that you're merely my subject. My heart won't allow it." He smiled, reaching for her hand. "And mine won't let me call you just my queen anymore." Drawing her close, he hugged her. A union of two worlds, bound by love instead of chains. But as dawn broke over Valerian, casting golden light across the horizon, whispers of change swept through the palace. The implications of their bond were undeniable, promising a future neither could foresee, but one they were ready to embrace together. The morning after their heartfelt confession, whispers of change rippled through the palace like a quiet storm. Servants exchanged knowing glances, courtiers murmured behind ornate fans, and even the usually stoic royal guards couldn't suppress faint smiles as they passed Selim in the halls. Yet beneath the surface of celebration lurked an undercurrent of tension. Not everyone was pleased with the idea of their queen uniting with a human, least of all those who had long coveted power for themselves. Among them was Lord Veros, Serafina's cousin and the head of the Council of Elders. A tall, angular figure with skin that shimmered like molten gold, Veros had always been ambitious. He viewed Serafina's reign as a stepping stone to ultimate control, believing her compassion made her unfit to rule. When news of her budding relationship with Selim reached him, he saw an opportunity, not only to discredit her but also to eliminate any threat posed by the human interloper. Veros began subtly sowing seeds of dissent among the nobility. At formal gatherings, he would raise questions about tradition and purity, reminding listeners of ancient laws forbidding interspecies unions. "Our queen is divine," he declared during one such assembly, his voice dripping with false reverence. "Would we tarnish her legacy by allowing mortal ties to weaken her resolve?" His words struck a chord with some, particularly older Velari clinging to outdated customs. Selim sensed the growing hostility but refused to let it dictate his actions. Instead, he focused on rebuilding Valerian in the wake of Kryn's invasion. Working alongside engineers and architects, he proposed innovative solutions inspired by Earth's resilience. Floating gardens were expanded into sustainable ecosystems, damaged towers transformed into self-sustaining habitats, and energy grids redesigned to prevent future vulnerabilities. The people responded enthusiastically, rallying around this vision of renewal and around the man who embodied hope. Serafina, meanwhile, grappled with conflicting emotions. On one hand, she cherished the newfound freedom Selim brought into her life. On the other, she felt the weight of her crown pressing down harder than ever. Late at night, when the palace lay silent except for the hum of distant machinery, she often found herself pacing her chambers, torn between duty and desire. One evening, unable to sleep, she sought out Selim in the library, where he spent hours poring over star charts and historical texts. "You look troubled," he said without looking up, his tone gentle yet perceptive. "I am," she admitted, sinking into a chair opposite him. "Every decision I make now feels like walking a tightrope. If I follow my heart, I risk losing everything, including you." He closed the book with a soft thud and leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "Then maybe it's time to stop thinking about what you might lose and start focusing on what you stand to gain." Together, we can redefine what leadership means here. You don't have to choose between being a queen and being happy. His words lingered in her mind long after they parted ways. The next day, she called for an emergency session of the council. Standing before the assembled elders, she addressed them with a clarity that silenced even Varos's protests. Change is inevitable, she announced, her voice resonating through the chamber. But it doesn't have to mean destruction. By embracing new ideas and new alliances, we can ensure Valerian's prosperity for generations to come. Though many applauded her boldness, Varos seethed. He knew persuasion alone wouldn't sway enough minds to challenge her openly. Desperation drove him to darker measures. That night, cloaked figures slipped through shadowy corridors, planting explosive devices in key locations throughout the palace. Their target wasn't just infrastructure, it was trust. By framing Selim for sabotage, Varos hoped to turn the populace against him and force Seraphina to abandon their union. The explosion came at dawn, shattering the tranquility of the floating gardens. Flames licked at crystalline petals, sending shards cascading into the abyss below. Chaos erupted as alarms blared and smoke filled the air. Amidst the pandemonium, Selim rushed to contain the damage, directing rescue efforts while ensuring no one was harmed. But when investigators discovered fragments of human-made components near the blast site, suspicion turned toward him. Accusations flew like daggers. Some demanded his immediate arrest, while others questioned whether Seraphina's judgment had been compromised. Even loyal servants hesitated, unsure whom to believe. For the first time since arriving on Valerian, Selim felt truly alone. Determined to clear his name, he enlisted the help of a few trusted allies, including Lyrian, a young Valari engineer who idolized his ingenuity, and the Los, a grizzled warrior whose loyalty to Seraphina ran deeper than blood. Together, they combed through evidence, piecing together clues that pointed to Varos's involvement. Humor became their refuge once more. When the Los tripped over a pile of debris, Selim quipped, "Careful there, big guy. Wouldn't want you taking out another garden." Their investigation led them to a hidden vault beneath the palace, where Varos stored contraband weapons and damning documents detailing his plans. Confronting him proved perilous. In a climactic showdown, Varos unleashed automated drones programmed to attack intruders. Dodging blasts and dismantling machines, the trio fought valiantly, their bond strengthening with each passing moment. Ultimately, it was Selim's quick thinking that turned the tide. Using a modified energy pulse from Lyrian's toolkit, he disabled the drones and cornered Varos. "Your greed has cost too much already," he growled, holding the traitor at sword point. "Time to face justice." Back in the throne room, Seraphina listened intently as Selim presented irrefutable proof of Varos's treachery. The council fell silent, shamefaced, as the truth unfolded. With a single command, Seraphina stripped Varos of his titles and banished him from Valerian forever. Yet the victory felt bittersweet. As applause echoed through the chamber, Selim caught Seraphina's eye. There was relief in her expression, but also uncertainty. They had overcome betrayal and danger, but challenges still loomed ahead. Could their love endure not only external threats but also the complexities of ruling a fractured kingdom? As the sun set over Valerian, painting the sky in hues of crimson and violet, Selim and Seraphina stood side by side on the palace balcony. Below, citizens celebrated their triumph, unaware of the trials yet to come. Hand in hand, they gazed outward, ready to face whatever fate awaited them. Together, in the weeks following Varos's exposure and exile, Valerian began to heal. The scars left by Kryn's invasion and the sabotage attempts were slowly mended, not just in the physical structures of the palace and city but also within its people's hearts. Seraphina and Selim worked tirelessly to rebuild trust, visiting every corner of the planet to listen to their citizens' concerns. They held open forums where even the humblest farmer or artisan could voice their thoughts, ensuring that no one felt forgotten. Selim's influence continued to reshape Valerian in subtle yet profound ways. Drawing inspiration from Earth's democratic principles, he introduced reforms that gave more power to local councils, allowing communities to govern themselves while remaining loyal to the crown. This decentralization eased tensions among factions who had once feared centralized authority, fostering unity instead of division. Meanwhile, Seraphina embraced these changes with grace, proving herself not as a distant ruler but as a compassionate leader willing to adapt for her people's sake. Their bond deepened with each passing day. No longer constrained by doubt or fear, they allowed love to guide them. One evening, After a particularly grueling council meeting, Seraphina surprised Selim with a private dinner on one of the floating gardens. Lanterns hung from hovering vines, casting soft golden light over the scene. As they sat together under the stars, she took his hand and smiled softly. "You've changed everything," she said, her voice warm with affection. "Not just the kingdom, but me." He chuckled, squeezing her fingers gently. "Well, someone had to keep you grounded. Can't have you floating off into space without me." Her laughter mingled with the night breeze, carrying away any lingering shadows of doubt. In that moment, surrounded by beauty and peace, they made a silent promise. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. Years passed, and their love bore fruit, quite literally. To everyone's delight, Seraphina gave birth to twins. A boy named Elric, whose silvery hair mirrored his mother's glow, and a girl named Lyra, whose bright green eyes sparkled like Earth's forests. Over time, 3 more children joined the royal family, each a perfect blend of human resilience and Velarri elegance. Their laughter echoed through the palace halls, filling the once stoic structure with warmth and joy. Raising their children became a shared adventure. Selim taught them stories of Earth, how humans built civilizations despite adversity, how courage and kindness often triumphed over brute strength. He showed them how to climb trees, much to the palace gardener's dismay, and introduced them to simple pleasures like roasted marshmallows and impromptu storytelling sessions. Seraphina, in turn, instilled in them the values of empathy and wisdom, teaching them about the delicate balance between technology and nature. Together, they created a household where tradition met innovation, and love reigned supreme. Under their joint leadership, Velaryon flourished beyond anyone's wildest dreams. Trade routes expanded, bringing prosperity to even the remotest regions. Alliances forged during the war solidified into friendships, transforming former enemies into allies. Most importantly, the cultural exchange between humans and Velarri blossomed, creating a society richer for its diversity. Humans brought humor and humility. The Velarri contributed artistry and ingenuity. Together, they crafted a world unlike any other, a beacon of harmony in an otherwise fractured galaxy. Yet life wasn't without its challenges. As their children grew older, questions arose about succession. Some nobles argued that only pure-blooded Velarri should inherit the throne, while others championed the idea of blending traditions. Once again, Seraphina and Selim found themselves navigating uncharted waters. But this time, they faced it together, drawing strength from their experiences. "We don't need to choose one path over another," Selim declared during a heated debate. "Our children represent both worlds. They'll lead Velaryon into a future neither of us could have imagined alone." Seraphina nodded, adding, "Unity doesn't mean losing identity. It means embracing what makes us unique and using it to build something stronger." Their words resonated deeply, silencing dissent and inspiring hope. When Elric came of age, he ascended the throne alongside Lyra, ruling jointly as co-monarchs. Their siblings supported them in various capacities, ensuring that governance remained collaborative rather than hierarchical. Under their leadership, Velaryon entered a golden age, celebrated across the stars as a model of cooperation and progress. As for Seraphina and Selim, they stepped back from active rule, content to watch their legacy unfold. They traveled the galaxy together, exploring new worlds and sharing their story with anyone willing to listen. On Earth, they became legends, a tale of love conquering all odds, told around campfires and in classrooms alike. Back home, they were simply mom and dad, doting grandparents who spoiled their grandchildren rotten. One evening, as they strolled hand in hand along a tranquil beach on a distant moon, Selim glanced at Seraphina and grinned. "You know, I never thought I'd end up here. With you, ruling planets, raising kids, saving galaxies." She laughed, leaning her head against his shoulder. "And I never thought I'd fall in love with a stubborn human soldier who refused to bow to me." "Well, look how far we've come," he said, pulling her closer. "From enemies to partners to rulers, and now, just 2 old folks watching the sunset." The waves lapped at their feet, the sky painted in hues of orange and pink. Above them, the stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across velvet. For a moment, there was nothing but peace, the kind born from years of struggle, sacrifice, and unwavering love. And so, Seraphina and Selim lived happily ever after, their lives intertwined like the roots of ancient trees. Together, they proved that love knows no boundaries, not species, not crowns, not even the vast expanse of the cosmos. Their story became etched not just in history books but in the hearts of those who believed in the power of unity, compassion, and hope.